2 Samuel. We are in chapter 16, and we'll be picking up with verse 19. And you'll remember that Absalom is speaking to Hushai. And Hushai is responding here. And again, whom should I serve? Should I not serve in the presence of his son? And as I have served in thy father's presence, so will I be in thy presence.
Well, what brought this about was, of course, David sent Hushai back to be a counselor to try to negate or overthrow the counsel of Ahithophel. And one thing about Hushai was it says he was David's companion. In other words, he was very close to David. So Absalom is questioning, why didn't you go with your father? And so Hushai is just stating, well, I'm to serve you just like I served your father. Whoever Israel chooses to be the king, that's who I'm going to serve, is the way he replies to all that.
Then said Absalom to Ahithophel, give counsel among you what we shall do.
So now Absalom is looking for advice, okay? How do we go about this? How do we take over the kingdom? How do we overthrow David? Is the essence of it. Now, remember, Ahithophel was David's counselor, but he's betrayed David and joined up with Absalom. Now, the thing about Ahithophel is he was an extremely wise counselor. And that's why David wanted Hushai to go back, because he needed someone to cancel out Ahithophel's counsel and then to give him word as to what was going on.
And Ahithophel said unto Absalom, go in unto thy father's concubines, which he hath left to keep the house, and all Israel shall hear that thou art abhorred of thy father. Then shall the hands of all that are with thee be strong.
So what Ahithophel is counseling Absalom to do is actually fulfilling the prophetic word that Nathan gave to David, that his wives would be, what David did was in secret, but what was going to happen to him, his wives would be done publicly. Now, the purpose of this is to where Israel will see that by him going into his father's wives, he's not playing games, okay? Because then this obviously would upset a family relationship, right? And so this is just a statement that he's making to the nation of Israel, I've taken over my father's wives. Okay, I'm serious about this thing.
So they spread Absalom a tent upon the top of the house, and Absalom went in unto his father's concubines in the sight of all Israel.
And so that just simply means that everybody in Israel knows what's going on. Okay.
And the counsel of Ahithophel, which he counseled in those days, was as if a man had inquired at the oracle of God. So was all the counsel of Ahithophel, both with David and with Absalom.
And so this man gave excellent counsel as far as being an advisor to get the best results. Ahithophel gave wise counsel, okay?
Chapter 17. Moreover, Ahithophel said unto Absalom, let me now choose out 7,000 men, and I will arise and pursue after David this night.
So Ahithophel not only is telling him what to do here, but he's also advising Absalom, let me choose out 12,000 men, 12,000 soldiers, and let's immediately pursue David. Let's not waste any time.
And I will come unto him while he is weary and weak-handed, and will make him afraid, and all the people that are with him shall flee, and I will smite the king only.
So then the intent was to overtake David and his army while they're mentally stressed and while they're physically tired. You understand what they did? They had to do in a hurry.
And I will bring back all the people unto thee. The man whom thou seekest is as if all return, so all the people shall be in peace.
So Ahithophel's strategy was to catch the people off guard, catch them unaware, and then cause them to succumb as a result of fear.
Verse 4, and the saying pleased Absalom well, and all the elders of Israel.
And so Ahithophel's counsel here, he believes that the people with David would run for their lives if they, immediately attacked them, and they would leave David exposed to be killed. And so Ahithophel's plan was to kill David, kill the king, but to bring the armies back to Absalom, and then he would reign over them. It would be a peaceful reign. Okay? So after hearing the counsel of Ahithophel, Absalom, and all these elders, which were the diplomats, if you will, they liked the counsel of Ahithophel. This sounds good.
Then said Absalom, call now Hushai the Archite also, and let us hear likewise what he saith.
So after hearing Ahithophel's counsel, Absalom says, all right, let's get Hushai in, and let's see what kind of counsel he'll give us.
And when Hushai was come to Absalom, Absalom spoke unto him, saying, Ahithophel has spoken after this manner. Shall we do after his saying? If not, speak thou.
So Absalom just simply asking Hushai, this is what Ahithophel says. What do you think?
And Hushai said unto Absalom, the counsel that Ahithophel hath given is not good at this time.
So he says that counsel at this particular time, it's not good counsel.
For said Hushai, thou knowest thy father and his men, that they be mighty men, and they be chafed in their minds, as a bear robbed of her whelps in the field. And thy father is a man of war, and will not lodge with the people.
So Hushai is telling Absalom that, remember David, your father, and these men, they're mighty warriors, and they're angry. And David's not going to camp with the people, but he'll be somewhere hiding. You better take these things in consideration.
Behold, he is hid now in some pit, or in some other place, and it will come to pass, when some of them be overthrown at the first, that whatsoever heareth it will say, there is a slaughter among the people that follow Absalom.
So Hushai's further suggestion to Absalom that if the soldiers caught up with David's soldiers, David's men would overthrow them. And even the most valiant of Absalom's soldiers would become fearful, and obviously they'd run. It would be a defeat for them.
And he also that is valiant, whose heart is as the heart of a lion, shall utterly melt. For all Israel knoweth that thy father is a mighty man, and they which be with him are valiant men.
So Hushai's saying, or just reiterating, everybody in Israel knows that your daddy is a powerful warrior. And his men are mighty men. They're valiant. You understand, you think back of David, it starts with killing Goliath, but that was just the beginning. Saul had put him as a commander in his army going out, and he was behaving himself more wisely and all, and he was developing a reputation as being a mighty warrior in Saul's army before he started running from Saul. And so they've already heard about him, and then he's surrounded himself with men who are phenomenal warriors. You understand? He has an elite group, and this is what Hushai is telling Absalom.
Verse 11, therefore I counsel that all Israel be generally gathered unto thee, from Dan even to Beersheba, as the sand that is by the sea for multitude, and that thou go to battle in thy own person.
to 13.
And so shall we come unto him in some place where he shall be found, and we will light upon him as the dew falleth on the ground, and of him and all the men that are with him there shall not be left so much as one. Moreover, if he be gotten into a city, then shall all Israel bring ropes to that city, and we will draw it into the river until there be not one small stone found there.
And so Hushai is advising Absalom, you assemble the entire Israeli army, and you personally lead them into battle against David to utterly destroy him and his entire army, and any city that's harboring them, then destroy the city and destroy David's men. In other words, let's assemble the whole army in sending out just a few, because you're up against a formidable opponent.
And Absalom and all the men of Israel said, the counsel of Hushai the Archite is better than the counsel of Ahithophel, for the Lord hath appointed to defeat the good counsel of Ahithophel, to the intent that the Lord might bring evil upon Absalom.
So Absalom and these elders or these diplomats, they decide, this counsel of Hushai is better than the counsel of Ahithophel. And the Lord had set all this up because he was going to overthrow the counsel of Ahithophel and ultimately destroy Absalom through this. Now, if you just look at this on the surface, you think, is Hushai really David's friend? I mean, gather the whole army against a smaller army, and this seems to be odds against David. But Hushai knows David. Okay.
Then said Hushai unto Zadok and to Abiathar the priests, thus and thus did Ahithophel counsel Absalom and the elders of Israel, and thus have I counseled.
And so Hushai, you remember Zadok and Abiathar go back, and they have their two sons, Ahimaaz and Jonathan. And so Hushai tells the priests, these two priests, that this is the counsel that Ahithophel gave to Absalom, and this is the counsel that I gave to Absalom. Now, he had advised David to leave the plains there in the wilderness and at once, and he warned David of the imminent danger that he and the people with him faced. So this message has to be gotten there quickly to get David and his men out of harm's way. And David knows how to evade the enemy. You understand?
Verse 17. Now Jonathan and Ahimaaz stayed by Enrogel, for they might not be seen to come into the city. And a wench went and told them, and they went and told King David.
So Jonathan and Ahimaaz are not staying in Jerusalem, they're staying in Enrogel, so that they wouldn't be detected as informants for David. And so the way they get the message is Zadok and Abiathar would send messages to Jonathan and Ahimaaz by a female slave. That's what a wench is, okay? And Jonathan and Ahimaaz then would carry the message to David. Now, something to understand is back then they didn't have iPhones and radios and all that communication. You communicated with runners. Now, Ahimaaz was a runner. We'll find out a little later on.
Yeah. Verse 18, nevertheless a lad saw them and told Absalom, but they went both of them away quickly and came to a man's house in Bahurim, which had a well in his court, whither they went down.
So this boy sees Jonathan and Ahimaaz, and he rats on them. He goes and tells Absalom, but they escaped to Bahurim, which was a small place, and to a man's house, had a well, and they go down into the well and hide in the well.
And the woman took and spread a covering over the well's mouth and spread ground corn thereon, and the thing was not known.
So the woman is concealing them by covering the mouth of the well and putting grain on it to where it would be an unsuspecting place for them to hide.
And when Absalom's servants came to the woman to the house, they said, Where is Ahimaaz and Jonathan? And the woman said unto them, They be gone over the brook of water. And when they had sought and could not find them, they returned to Jerusalem.
Now here's some wisdom. She didn't say they haven't been here. She says they've already gone. They've already passed over the brook. And so, these men leave and go to try to find Ahimaaz and Jonathan, but they're unable to find them, so they return to Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm. And it came to pass after they were departed that they came up out of the well and went and told King David and said unto David, Arise and pass quickly over the water, for thus hath Ahithophel counseled against you.
So once these men are gone, Ahimaaz and Jonathan quickly run to David and tell him what's going on, because as far as what the counsel that Ahithophel had given and Hushai had given.
Then David arose and all the people that were with him, and they passed over Jordan by the morning light. There lacked not one of them that was not gone over Jordan.
So David listened to the message from Hushai and immediately followed his counsel. And before the morning dawn, in other words, this is still in the dark, David and all those with him had crossed over the Jordan River.
And when Ahithophel saw that his counsel was not followed, he saddled his ass and arose, and got him home to his house, to his city, and put his household in order, and hanged himself, and died, and was buried in the sepulchre of his father.
So Ahithophel knows he's in trouble. He's betrayed the king, David, okay? Mm-hmm. And so when he sees that Absalom is not following his counsel, he knows I'm a dead man, because Absalom's not going to succeed. So he goes home, sets his house in order, and hangs himself, and then buried in his father's tomb.
Then David came to Mahanaim, and Absalom passed over Jordan, he and all the men of Israel with him.
So David went to Mahanaim, and then Absalom and his army, they crossed over Jordan as well.
And Absalom made Amasa captain of the host instead of Joab, which Amasa was a man's son, whose name was Ithra, an Israelite, that went into Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, sister Zeruiah, Joab's mother.
So Amasa, who's the son of Jeshua and Abigail, Absalom made him the captain of the army. All right, this is David's nephew. Okay, so this is Absalom's cousin. Okay, and so it says Abigail was the daughter of Nahash, who was a sister of Zeruiah. Now, there's a lot of schools of thought on this, and as to who Nahash was. Okay. Different scholars say different things, and in that we can't give you an accurate documentation and set anything in concrete. We're not going to say who it was. This I do know, that Zeruiah and Abigail were sisters. I do know that from the scriptures, okay? And then Zeruiah was the mother of Joab, who was the commander of David's army, and Abishai, who was one of the mighty men in David's army, and Asahel, who was killed by Abner. He was also one of David's mighty men.
Verse 26, so Israel and Absalom pitched in the land of Gilead.
So Asahel all these men that I mentioned, Abishai and Joab, are mighty men. And when we say mighty men, these guys were the elite, okay? And so all these guys are first cousins. It's interesting how you have a family feud going on here, if you will, with Absalom being David's son, and these guys are David's nephews. So we have cousins fighting cousins, is what it boils down to. And so Absalom brings his army over to engage, and so they cross over Jordan and they camp at the land of Gilead.
This is really amazing if you stop and think about what's happening here. It's like this is what movies are made of. You've got this king who's a man of God, and all of a sudden his son, who turns evil, decides he wants the kingship, and he starts going after him. And then you've got the king's, David's, closest men that give him wise counsel go, and it looks like they're hitting for the other team now. They've switched sides, and you've got these men, David and his mighty men, and these people running for their lives, hiding from David's son, and people are going every which way. And then you've got these two guys running and acting as spies, if you will, going undercover, even going down in the well, trying to get this message to David to save people's lives. Don't y'all think this is interesting, what's happening?
This is a major conspiracy that's going on.
Yeah.
And this is this is war, any way you want to look at it, okay?
And all the while, you have David loving his son. He loves his son. And we're going to find out he loves his son so much that he gives directions. Listen, don't kill this boy. But we'll get there. Verse 27. And it came to pass, when David was come to Mahanaim, that Shobai the son of Nahash of Rabbah, of the children of Ammon, and Machir the son of Ammiel of Lodebar, and Barzillai the Gileadite of Rogeam. You got all that, right? Everybody got that? Okay, very good.
So when realizing the people were hungry, weary, thirsty, Shobai the son of Nahash, descendant of Ammon, Machir the son of Ammiel, who was from Lodebar, and Barzillai the Gileadite from Adullam, they brought food and supplies for David and the people with them. You understand? Soldiers have to eat. They also have to sleep, rest, okay? And so these guys are sort of a support to them. You understand? And every military, any conflict, you have people that are fighting and people who support people who are fighting, okay? And it takes both in order to win the war, all right?
They bring all this good stuff. Listen what they bring in verse 28. They brought beds and basins and earthen vessels and wheat and barley and flour and parched corn and beans and lentils and parched pulse and honey and butter and sheep and cheese of kine for David and for the people that were with him to eat. For they said, the people is hungry and weary and thirsty in the wilderness.
It sounds like they supplied them with a little better than K-rations, you understand?
Yeah.
So they're doing okay.
Chapter 18. And David numbered the people that were with him and set captains of thousands and captains of hundreds over them. Now,
here again shows you David's military abilities. He's savvy, okay? And so what does he do? He organizes and structures this army that he has defending him, okay?
And David sent forth a third part of the people under the hand of Joab, and a third part under the hand of Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, and a third part under the hand of Ittai the Gittite. And the king said unto the people, I will surely go forth with you myself also.
So David divides his army into three divisions. He puts one under Joab, one under Abishai, and one under Ittai the Gittite. So he's organizing, if you understand. And each of these men who are in charge of these armies are warriors. You know, they're not ones who point their fingers. There's one that'll take you into battle and take your head off. You understand?
But the people answered, Thou shalt not go forth, for if we flee away, they will not care for us, neither if half of us die will they care for us. But now thou art worth 10,000 of us. Therefore, now it is better that thou succor us out of the city.
David's still that heart of the warrior. David is going out to battle, so he announces, "I'm going out." And then they said, "No, you don't need to go out to the battle." Absalom doesn't care about us. What he's wanting to do is take you out. Okay, and so it's more beneficial for us for you to stay in the city and not to engage in the battle. You understand? We need your leadership as king, and we know how to fight. And so you just stay there and you take care of business from your perspective, and then we'll take care of the business of war.
This is really smart what's happening here.
Yeah.
Protecting David. And the king said unto them, What seemeth you best I will do. And the king stood by the gate side, and all the people came out by hundreds and by thousands.
So here's another mark of a good leader. David yields to the counsel of his faithful followers, and he remains in the city as his army won out. You know, a good leader is not one who just takes control and you can't tell him anything. A good leader will take advice. So he's listening to what they say, you understand?
And the king commanded Joab and Abishai and Ittai, saying, Deal gently for my sake with the young man, even with Absalom. And all the people heard when the king gave all the captains charge concerning Absalom.
So this puts David in a very precarious situation, you understand? He's got his son wanting to kill him, but he don't want to kill his son. So how can I win this war and not kill the leaders? Is the essence of it. But yet then he tells Joab and Abishai and Ittai, deal gently with the boy. In other words, I don't want you to kill him. That's not what we want. Let's defeat his army, but don't kill him. And all the army, all the other soldiers, they hearing what's been said to these three leaders. Okay.
So the people went out into the field against Israel, and the battle was in the wood of Ephraim.
So David's army goes out to battle against Absalom's army. And the battlefield is actually in the middle of the woods there in the area of Ephraim.
Where the people of Israel were slain before the servants of David, and there was a great slaughter that day of 20,000 men.
So David's army is still a very formidable opponent, you understand. Hushai is not just blowing smoke. And Absalom's, those diplomats with him, they know this. And anyway, when they engage in the battle, David's army defeats the Israeli army. He defeats Absalom's army, and 20,000 soldiers were killed. But note this. Next verse.
Yes, sir. For the battle was there scattered over the face of all the country, and the wood devoured more people that day than the sword devoured.
Because of the terrain killed more than the sword was killing.
Something. And Absalom met the servants of David, and Absalom rode upon a mule, and the mule went under the thick boughs of a great oak, and his head caught hold of the oak, and he was taken up between the heaven and the earth, and the mule that was under him went away.
So Absalom riding on a mule, and he meets David's soldiers. And the mule goes under a terebinth tree, and Absalom's head was caught in the thick boughs, and the mule kept obviously running forward, so Absalom was left hanging by his head from the boughs of the tree. Now, there's different schools of thought on, was he hanging by his head, or did his hair get caught in the branches? The bottom line is, from the written word of God, we don't know. You understand? Because if you look at the Hebrew, it says head. And if you look at where Absalom pulled his hair, it's a different Hebrew word. So there's a different Hebrew word from hair and head. But when you think about it, I wouldn't dare make a concrete statement as to what it was. It would stand to reason, because of his long hair that he only cut once a year, that was an attributing factor to his head being caught in the tree and being hung there, to the point, if it's just his head caught, you would think he could pull himself up and free himself. But if his hair's tangled up, that'd be much more difficult to do, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Verse 10, and a certain man saw it and told Joab and said, Behold, I saw Absalom hanged in an oak. So
when one of the soldiers of Joab saw what had happened to Absalom, he says, look, Absalom's hanging over there in a tree. He's caught up. He's not able to get down.
And Joab said unto the man that told him, And behold, thou sawest him, and why didst thou not smite him there to the ground? And I would have given thee 10 shekels of silver and a girdle.
So Joab asked the soldier, why didn't you kill Absalom?
Yeah.
If you had killed him, I would have given you 10 shekels of silver and a belt if you had killed him. Now, this next verse, you're going to find out Joab had a reputation in his army as well. That you can't trust this guy.
And the man said unto Joab, Though I should receive 1,000 shekels of silver in my hand, yet would I not put forth my hand against the king's son. For in our hearing the king charged thee, and Abishai and Ittai, saying, Beware that none touch the young man Absalom.
So the soldier tells Joab, I wouldn't have killed the king's son for 10,000 shekels of silver. I know what he told you. And he reminded Joab of David's command to be certain that nobody harmed the young man or to Absalom. And so the soldier is being loyal to David's request, okay?
Verse 13, Otherwise I should have wrought falsehood against my own life, for there is no matter hid from the king, and thou thyself wouldst have set thyself against me.
So, listen to that.
Yeah.
So the soldier tells Joab, if I'd have killed Absalom, then my life would be taken, and you wouldn't have defended me. You would have hung me out to dry. Is that trust? Joab was a mighty warrior, but he was a ruthless man.
Then said Joab, I may not tarry thus with thee. And he took 3 darts in his hand and thrust them through the heart of Absalom while he was yet alive in the midst of the oak.
So Joab disregards the soldier and goes to the place where Absalom's hanging and throws 3 spears into Absalom's heart. But he doesn't stop there.
And 10 young men that bare Joab's armor compassed about and smote Absalom and slew him.
So Joab has these 10 armor bearers around him, and so he has them to kill Absalom. In other words, he threw the spears in. Now, you finish him off. You make sure he's dead.
And Joab blew the trumpet, and the people were turned from pursuing after Israel, for Joab held back the people. So
here's the intent of the army. Absalom's army, take out David. Joab's mindset, take out Absalom. Either way, we can stop the war by taking out the leader. And so as soon as Joab kills Absalom, then he blows the trumpet to retreat from war. We've accomplished our mission.
And they took Absalom and cast him into a great pit in the wood, and laid a very great heap of stones upon him. And all Israel fled every one to his tent.
So when Absalom was taken down from the tree, he was thrown into this large pit, and they covered that pit with stones. And when the Israeli army learned of Absalom's death, they fled, they retreated.
Now Absalom in his lifetime had taken and reared up for himself a pillar, which is in the king's dale, for he said, I have no son to keep my name in remembrance. And he called the pillar after his own name, and it is called unto this day Absalom's place.
When Absalom had no sons to carry on his name, he set up a monument for himself in the King's Valley and named it Absalom's Monument. Now, we know from other scriptures, you can look at 2 Samuel 14:27, we know that Absalom had a son. Now, whether he set this up before that son was born, or if something happened to that son, I don't know the detail. But I do know that he did have a son. It's not a contradictory statement. There's information that we don't have, so we can't draw a conclusion. Okay? And that's a good stopping place. Our time's up here. We'll take the break. Okay? And you want to bless